The Epic of Gilgamesh, a song of humanity inscribed on the walls of mortality. Full version. Introduction. Humanity's first existential question inscribed in clay. The oldest story ever told by humanity about 4,000 years ago. The first literature of humanity was inscribed on the clay tablets of ancient Mesopotamia. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh, a record of the life and death of the legendary king of ancient Sumer, recorded and refined by countless anonymous authors and scribes since around 2000 BCE. This epic contains humanity's first existential questions. Why must humans die, and what can we leave behind in the face of death? This wisdom, inscribed stitch by stitch on clay by ancient masters, has endured through thousands of years to reach us today. Now we awaken the language of those sealed tablets and begin the grand journey of a hero who wished to be a god, but ultimately had to walk the path of a human. Episode 1, The Tyrant of Uruk. He sought to leave his name forever. In Sumer, the first civilization, lived King Gilgamesh within the walls of Uruk. 2/3 god and 1/3 man, he was fashioned by the divine. No one could withstand his majesty, and he ruled as a tyrant, driving the youths into forced labor to build massive walls. He believed his strength would endure forever, and he built up a colossal ambition to leave an eternal name. As if testing the boundaries set by the gods, he was certain that death could never find him. Yet his world collapsed when Enkidu, the only companion and brother sent by the gods, met his end. Gilgamesh wept day and night beside the corpse, facing the reality of death. The moment he saw a maggot fall from his strong friend's nose, he shuddered, realizing the irreversible fate of mortality. My friend has turned to clay, and must I too lie down like him? Shall I never rise again? The rotting form of his friend became his terror, and he felt the deep, full version, bone-chilling realization that he was but a mortal man. From that day on, Gilgamesh cast off his royal robes, clad himself in lion skins, and began to wander the wilderness. Episode 2, Enkidu, the Mirror of Wildness, the transition from beast to human. The people of Uruk cried out to the gods under the harsh tyranny of Gilgamesh. Anu, the god of the heavens, commanded Aruru, the goddess of creation, to fashion a peer as a match for Gilgamesh's wild strength. Aruru cast a piece of clay into the wilderness, where Enkidu was born a wild man who ate grass with the beasts. He knew neither the speech of men nor the order of civilization. Being pure strength itself, he guarded the wilderness, rescuing the beasts of the field from the hunter's traps. Gilgamesh sent Shamhat, a woman of the temple, to lure this wild being into the world of men. Enkidu remained with Shamhat for 7 days, beginning to acquire human wisdom. When he returned to the field, the animals that were once his brothers grew wary and fled from him. Enkidu could no longer run like the beasts, but he had finally transformed into a human capable of thought. Shamhat guided him toward Uruk, telling him of Gilgamesh, a man of equal strength. Episode 3, The Duel and Brotherhood. From a tyrant to a human with a companion, Enkidu entered the square of Uruk to obstruct the oppressive power of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was heading toward a bride's chamber, and Enkidu blocked the entrance with his foot. The two giants began their duel, lunging at each other like enraged bulls. A fierce struggle ensued, shaking the city walls, yet their strengths were so evenly matched that neither could subdue the other. At the end of the violent struggle, Gilgamesh witnessed Enkidu's overwhelming toughness and allowed his anger to subside. For the first time in his life, he faced an entity of equal strength and realized the position of a companion, rather than that of an isolated ruler. Enkidu also recognized Gilgamesh's kingly majesty and cast away his hostility. This fight ended in a declaration of brotherhood that offset each other's loneliness. The two heroes took each other's hands and swore an eternal bond. Episode 4, Humbaba, the Guardian of Cedar Forest, the forbidden expedition for an eternal name. Gilgamesh was seized by a longing to permanently carve his power and name into the world. He proposed to Enkidu that they slay Humbaba, the terrifying monster guarding the sacred cedar forest. Enkidu warned that the forest was a forbidden realm, yet Gilgamesh insisted it was a man's duty to leave a name before death. They reached the entrance of the sacred forest with superhuman speed. Facing the grandeur of the forest, even Gilgamesh was momentarily seized by fear, but he took up his sword again at Enkidu's encouragement. They subdued the monster with the help of 13 powerful winds sent by the sun god Shamash. Gilgamesh ultimately decapitated Humbaba and brought the cedars, cherished by the gods back to Uruk. However, this heroic ambition was a direct violation of the divine order, serving as a prelude to tragedy. Episode 5, The Wrath of Ishtar and the Bull of Heaven. Heroes directly challenging the divine order. Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, was captivated by Gilgamesh and seduced him to become her husband. However, Gilgamesh insultingly rejected her proposal, enumerating how she had destroyed her past lovers. Trembling with rage, Ishtar pleaded for the Bull of Heaven to punish Gilgamesh. The Bull of Heaven descended to earth, splitting the ground with its breath. Yet Gilgamesh and Enkidu stood against the bull and killed it. When Ishtar hurled curses, Enkidu tore off the bull's hind leg and flung it at her face, mocking divine authority. This act was the height of arrogance, shattering the boundaries set by the gods, and a council was convened to judge their profanity. Episode 6. The Death of Enkidu and the Coldness. The beginning of divine punishment and the reality of death. A council of gods decreed that one of the two heroes must surely die, and they chose Enkidu. Enkidu began to wither like a plant and closed his eyes in lamentation. Gilgamesh did not leave his friend's corpse, wailing night and day. However, as time passed, an ice-like coldness arose from the body. The moment he witnessed a maggot fall from the nose, Gilgamesh was seized by unspeakable horror. That coldness was the frost of mortality as an existence vanishes and returns to the clay. My friend Enkidu has now turned to clay must. I also lie down like him and never rise again? Gilgamesh finally realized that death was his own unavoidable future. Episode 7. The Shadow of Death and the Wilderness. Casting off the crown to clad in the fear of death. Having lost Enkidu, Gilgamesh could no longer sit upon the throne. He tore off his robes and ventured into the wilderness in lion skins. His heart was filled with the question of his own mortality. He began an endless wandering to find Utnapishtim, who attained eternal life. He endured physical agony in the darkness of the abyss, fueled only by the fear of death. His majesty as a king vanished, leaving merely a pitiful human trembling before death. He pleaded with the alewife Siduri, "My friend has turned to clay. How can I find rest? Death has made its nest in my heart." He now prepares to cross the waters of death, to defy the irreversible logic of time. Episode 8, Utnapishtim and the Test of Sleep. Longing for immortality, defeated by sleep. Gilgamesh finally faced Utnapishtim and begged for the secret of immortality. Utnapishtim proposed a test: if you wish not to die first, conquer sleep for 6 nights and 7 days. Gilgamesh immediately fell into a deep sleep. While he slept, a loaf of bread was baked each day at his head as evidence of passing time. The sight of the decaying bread was evidence of the irreversible time that had passed. Utnapishtim rebuked him. How can one who cannot even defeat sleep seek to defeat death? Gilgamesh had to admit that he was confined to a human body that must sleep and inevitably decay. The dream of eternal life collapsed hollowly before a week of sleep. Episode 9. The Plant of Youth and the Return to the Wall. Returning empty-handed to face the reality of immortality. Utnapishtim revealed the secret of a plant that makes the old young. Gilgamesh secured the plant but lost it to a serpent while bathing. The serpent gained youth by shedding its skin, and Gilgamesh wept helplessly. "For whom have my hands labored? I have gained nothing for myself." He finally realized that regained youth did not belong to the lot of man. Returning to Uruk, he gazed upon the sturdy walls he had built. He no longer sought to become a god who does not die. Instead, as a human who would one day return to clay, he accepted the order of the land and the value of his legacy. Atop the walls, he left behind the tablets inscribed with his name, declaring that the only immortality reachable by a mortal lies in a recorded life.